Good afternoon and welcome to the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake meeting of council held November the 7th, 2017. Before we start our meeting, I just wanted to read a notice. At its meeting of November 21st, council will consider bylaws to sell portions of the Prince Street Laneway South to adjacent property owners. Before we start our meeting, we'll have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Item 2, the approval of the agenda.
It's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that council approves the agenda for its regular meeting of November 7th, 2017 as presented.
All in favor? Carried, thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? None declared. Acceptance of minutes and recommendations.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that council accepts the minutes of the following meetings. The Tech Pioneer Committee of Management held June 27th, 2017. The Kirkland Lake Public Library Board held September 21st, 2017. And the regular meeting of council held October 17th, 2017.
All in favor? It's carried. We have item 6, reports of municipal officers and communications. And for this meeting, we're just going to switch it around a little bit. Normally, the bylaws would come at the end, but in order to approve signing authority policy, we need a bylaw to put the new hirees on staff. So today, we're going to be welcoming our town engineer, Samir Abraham, our town treasurer, Hosea Ampufa, our deputy treasurer, Adam Slee, and our chief building official, Vic Bachanko. So if you want to...
So I have a motion that's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 17-115, being a bylaw to appoint Hosea Mpufa as treasurer and Adam Slee as deputy treasurer for the town of Kirkland Lake, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried.
Okay, and the second one is a motion that's moved by Councillor Kiley and it's seconded by Councillor Barker, that bylaw 17-116, being a bylaw to appoint Victor Brachenko as interim chief building official and property standards officer for the town of Kirkland Lake, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? That's carried. Item B is signing authority, or is that?
Yeah, do you want to talk about it? Okay.
Yep.
So this is the signing authority that we're bringing forth. It is just setting up the treasurer and the deputy treasurer in place. And so we have a motion that is moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council approves the signing authority policy dated November 7th, 2017 as presented.
All in favor? It's carried. Okay. Item C.
Good evening, everyone. So my first report has to do with, it's a follow-up to a previous resolution earlier this fall of looking at moving council meetings and council chambers to Heritage North. Essentially, we have I guess this building is about 80 years old, from what I gather, and there's some deficiencies when it comes to accessibility legislation. And I'm looking at some short-term measures of what we can do to buy us some time. One of the major things that this building does have is the public gathering of our formal council proceedings. And so that's the biggest draw to this building. So what I'm considering, what I would like council to consider is that we move council meetings to Heritage North by the end of this year. With that, there are some procedural stuff we have to update in our bylaws. One of them being that council has, part of their procedures is to tape and I guess audio and videotape these meetings. So that would also need to be suspended. And also I have another deferral, basically another request to defer looking at all our facilities across the corporation as part of a holistic plan for both compliance with accessibility legislation, but also to see if we're maximizing our facilities, of our accommodation needs, our future needs, and our existing needs, and to see if any assets can be sold off, repurposed, or whatnot. So the information is pretty straightforward of what exercise we did do, and I'm just here to answer any questions you have, any thoughts, suggestions.
Councillor Roman?
Is there any estimates for what it will cost to make the hockey heritage site able to be streamed online the way that these meetings are?
Very preliminary costs where we got to do some cabling, obviously the networking. Very preliminary costs. We kind of, ballpark 10 to 15 grand. Very preliminary costs.
Okay.
Right. So what we're proposing to use is the theater room, the one where the big garage door opens, in there, and basically set it up as a temporary style tables in a horseshoe type of format. That we don't want to do anything permanent there until we finalize what our permanent location is going to be. So we don't take away from the room rentals on off days. So we tested it out for the time being. We did test it out, and Joanne can jump in here, but acoustic wise, we don't need speakers the room is small enough, yet it's built in a way that they can hear you without a mic. And I think the logistics, the cost wide was on videotaping, right? Because that's what we have to build in.
And then another question I have is, I realize that the reasoning behind it is because this facility here isn't considered accessible. Do we get a lot of complaints that it isn't accessible? Because the way I kind of see it, by shutting down the YouTube, we're actually making it less accessible to people than more accessible.
It is, but YouTube isn't regulated. We don't have to provide that. Mm-hmm. So if in the event of a complaint, do we get complaints? We do get complaints. Do I have statistics on the top of my head? No. But I guess it's the trend to move to compliancy. And it's not just this room, right? There's a whole bunch of other things that go on with the building for compliance. What we're trying to do is we're trying to say, my strategy is, this is what draws most of the public into this building, that we would have to make most things compliant for. So if we take this function out temporarily, it bides us time to either fund, build, whatever, to decide, right? So the complaints would be driven by council meeting, people attending council meetings. And again, it's a legislation. So, will we get charged? Will we not get charged? I don't think it's fair to be in that game, to be making those calls as an administrator, right? That I'm trying to extend my compliance requirements. So, we do have citizens and participants that do come to chambers, and we just want to make sure that it's accessible for them. So. And that's the debate that I think that what you're raising is online versus in person. And Heritage North is a brand, it's an 8-year-old building. It has meets all the compliance. It's pretty up to code. And we're trying to hit kind of two birds with one stone sort of thing with this approach.
Okay. Well, I'm sort of the attitude that, I'm in favor of the corporate-wide plan to look at all our facilities, but until then, I would tend to keep council meetings here. That would be my opinion, because the way I sort of see it is we're making it less accessible to people by going over, more accessible to fewer people, and then less accessible to everybody. So that's just my opinion.
And if participants wish to delegate council?
I'm not sure what you mean there.
To come to delegate council at this chambers. Viewing is one, so participation in a council meeting
Yeah.
is two things,
Yeah.
right? There's the viewing, there's the audience members, there's also the participation, the delegates.
Yeah.
So, that's that's one instance that might arise. We come in here, that might arise, if a delegate comes and they can't be accommodated. That you should be, I guess I'm just flagging it, right? So,
Okay, thanks.
Counselor Kiley?
Yeah, just a comment, and you can confirm this. The layout of that room will have it that all of council will be facing the public instead of what's happening here tonight, where our back is to the public. From that standpoint, it certainly makes a lot of sense.
yeah, essentially, it'll be, think of the reverse.
Yeah.
So the mayor would be down here, and the audience would be out there, right, and all the councilors here, so it would be out reverse. And just to go back, the other thing to help with your concern is, I don't have to wait to, the budget process to authorize to spend, to put YouTube up. I can get authorization to do it, you know, as part of this before the end of the year. Right? That could be part of the recommendation and the decision. So if we don't move in till the end of the year until also YouTube is compliant, right? It's just, for me, I was just trying to wait for the budget process to do the money. But by all means, it's council's discretion to spend, to direct me to do that as part of it.
Counselor Shamiard?
Yeah, I don't know, Peter, if I like this idea. I like this building here. It's in the middle of town, it's easy, people have access, they walk here. The YouTube thing is huge. I don't know how many people tell me they watch on YouTube. I'm always surprised. I didn't think there'd be that many people, really. There's a lot of people. And they like to watch on YouTube. They sit at home at night and they zoom to some part and they listen to some part, and that's what they do. I don't know accessibility. Is that because of the width of the door? Is that what the biggest thing, or? Because there's an elevator and all this, so they come in, they go elevator.
Well, there's the door openers, the width of the door, proper washrooms. This setup, because it's elevated, there's a lot. There's like the proper seating for people in scooters or wheelchairs, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff that's part of the legislation. You know, and again, I'm not the expert in it, but we would have to probably get in a architect or somebody who is an expert in these design things to come and scope it out, because there's probably, the elevator does need work, and I think the last thing we got was about $50,000 worth of elevator, and I don't know if that's the new standards, you know.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
and I know
yeah.
we did have some repairs on our door opener down on the main floor by the elevator, and that bill literally was 2-3 weeks ago, and it was $4,000 to repair that, so it isn't cheap,
No,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So,
Because right now, I'm worried about the budget. I mean, we just hired 10 people, that's 1.1 million on the budget, plus the pool will be another 500,000, so that's, before you start the year, Peter, it's, Pat, it's 1.6 million more. I don't know if we need more. I mean, we should just slow down a bit and do those things, and maybe next year, if they want to change it, they could change it. And I said they, because I probably won't be here. But like, we're trying to do a lot of things in a short time. I mean, Hockey Heritage North, I like, Hockey, was it, no?
Heritage
North. Or no North? Yeah.
no more hockey.
No more hockey. Yeah, it's a nice building right now. It's being used more and more, and I would like to see where it's gonna go in the next year. We started last year, and I mean, we have a lot more stuff going on there. It's used quite a bit. The mine uses it regularly, plus there's all kind of weddings going on, parties. I wanna see what's going on. I don't know if I wanna make sure, close one room so we could do something there. I mean, I think we need time of it. That's what I think.
Yeah, the proposal is to buy you that time. Like, as an administrator, if I have a complaint, I have no choice but to accommodate.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether I accommodate on the spot costing me $10,000, I will accommodate, because I have to do what I have to do. And what I'm trying to say is, twice a month, because our meetings are Tuesdays a month, in the evening, we temporarily move our location over there.
But that's easy to say, but then this room will become something else. So at that point,
no,
we're not coming back here.
This room won't become anything.
Well, I'm
Like,
sure,
there's no money to do anything to it.
I'm sure we're not gonna leave it
but-
like empty.
But, no, I think that there might be confusion here. So this room will be part of the corporate study.
Well, why don't
Right.
we do that first and then worry about what's going on? Like, I think we're going too fast. Do the corporate study, leave it here, we have YouTube here, and people could see what's going on, and they really like that. And for me, that's, like Jim said, that's important. More people have access rather than less. When it's snowing outside, there's a snowstorm, people still watch it online, and,
Now, the YouTube is not live,
no,
right?
they don't
It's
care
the-
about
It's
that.
the next day.
And they wouldn't watch it live anyway.
Right.
They would, because they like to zoom through commercial. So anyway, that's my point.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barker?
Peter, I fully support this. We need to be compliant with the ODA, and quick, easy solution to the YouTube thing is just put up a camcorder and catch the video, like the video feed from that room, post it up the next day like we normally do. It's an extra step. Instead of having it right from the server, you save it to a stick and then edit it that way. But there's inexpensive ways to provide the meeting and the information to the public. But to meet the regulations, we need to move on this, and I do fully support your recommendations.
Yeah, just, do we have any, moving it to Heritage North will provide a building that is inclusive for everyone. To put the YouTube, I think equipment here was upwards of $30,000 or $35,000. Is it more expensive what we did here than what we would do at Heritage North, or? I'm just wondering about the estimate, that's all.
Yeah, and our IT manager was with us as part of the walkthrough, so the ballpark figure I referenced.
Okay.
Again, it's a scaled down version of what you have here.
Yeah.
Right, and, I guess weighing on the factors, YouTube doesn't have, like, providing audio and visual is not legislated. Providing accommodation on facilities is. So I think that's part of the factors that my decision recommending this. So,
Yeah, like the elevator we have downstairs, regardless of whether we have council meetings up here, we're still obligated to keep that elevator going. So it's not that we're gonna not have to spend any money on the elevator. We're gonna continue to spend money on the elevator. And so what we'd be looking at, I guess, is have we ever costed the amount that would require to put a accessible washroom here at Town Hall? And I guess that's one of the issues, right?
well, yeah, it's not just the accessible washroom though. There's automatic doors, these two doors, automatic doors on the boys and girls washroom, the proper washroom sizing, the stalls, the proper seating area, right? This little elevated platform, there's a lot of issues. It's not just the washroom, so it's probably, anywhere between 100 and 250,000 when you start getting into it. So, and that's, I realize I'm trying to do a short gap measure, just to be able to say we've complied.
Yeah.
Right, versus coming to, and then part of the renovations would be part of a longer-term capital plan. Versus depending on having a regulator come in here and say your council meetings aren't compliant, so then I'm running a deficit, spending $250,000 in year unfunded, right? So I guess that's the risk. So.
Yeah, because the corporation has no prejudice for sure. We could hire an employee that's disabled, and we would have to do exactly the same thing as what you're saying. So it's not just because council chambers are here. It's anything that might hit us in the future. But I tend to agree with Councillor Chamillard, and is that YouTube is extremely important for us. This council or the past council was mandated, I guess if you want to say. There was some discussion of lack of transparency. So we decided to go with the YouTube. I'm in agreement that certainly we have to remain accessible. Our buildings have to be inclusive. But making this building inclusive is not just because of council chambers are here. Again, we could have any, so I mean, for me, I certainly would like to go with the option of leaving council chambers here until you have a chance to look at all our capital assets, and then come up with a plan. So I would support keeping it here for the time being. Councillor Barker?
Go ahead, Councilor first.
Councillor Kiley?
Yeah, Peter, just for curiosity, the sound equipment and the recording equipment that we have here, can that not be taken out and put into Heritage North?
I do
Which would
believe
be a
that was
saving?
that was the plan, right? That was the plan.
Still that,
And that's the installation of, that's the number, that was 10 to 15 grand. That was the exact same plan.
okay.
Like, we're not buying anything new, you know. Again, it's a temporary fix. I'm, you know, as the administrator, I'm, at the end of the day, the regulator comes down, and whether I have an employee or a member of the public that comes into any one of our buildings, because none of our buildings are, granted, they aren't. The physical service, the public works building isn't. But this was just a concept of, you know, an interim measure to look at the volume of where the people come and try to satisfy something to buy us time.
Councillor Barker?
I'd just like to remind council that we are out of compliance as we stand. This will help temporarily fix that compliance. So I think we need to think long and hard about this decision tonight. It's a temporary solution. We're still going through with the long-range study on it. But by voting to continue them here and not having them accessible to our constituents as legislated, we're leaving ourselves open for fines and other penalties that couldn't occur that would cost us even more down the road. It's a pretty short-term vision versus the long-term.
Any other comments, or? Councillor Shamier?
Yeah, both are temporary. If we stay here, it's temporary, and if we go there, it's temporary. So basically, we're doing, is it temporary there or temporary here? That's why I think I believe we should stay here, and then you have time to study, and maybe in the next 12 months, hey, that's what we're doing. We're moving, here's the plan, here's the money. I'm getting ready.
My only question would be, I've asked to defer the budget request of the corporate plan. It is going up against a big budget, as we all know, so that's the only caution I would say. I can't do the plan if the plan isn't funded, right? So.
Any other comments?
I have two resolutions that go with this report. The first one's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that council approves moving council meetings to Heritage North, suspending recording of minutes until such time as funding could be assigned for proper audio-video installations.
All in favor?
All against?
All against?
Okay, so it's defeated. Okay. The other one, second one, is moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council refers a decision to conduct a corporate-wide strategic facility plan for the town's space and accommodation requirements as part of the 2018 budget.
All in favor?
Yeah, okay. So that's passed.
Item D.
Yes, so this is more or less a procedural matter. I have already worked and settled a litigation claim, and part of that claim requires, the procedure requires council to ratify the amount so I can go and sign, do all the paperwork. Obviously, I cannot speak about the claim and about the actual litigation in open meeting. Essentially, what I've asked for is authorization to settle matters up to a maximum of $100,000.
Discussion? No say, right? You know, just to thank you, Peter, for attending the meeting on behalf of council and the town.
So motion's moved by Counselor
Oh,
Kylie.
I'm sorry, Counselor Roman?
Just a quick question, would council be brought up to speed on these matters prior to settlements taking place, or?
I guess these is, in the perfect world, yes. I guess, but the way the court system works, they have their own process, and we don't know. I guess it's up to, in the perfect world, yes. I can't speak for how a court would deem its process, because the original thought process of attending this meeting that I went to, there wasn't going to be a settlement, right? So.
We were aware that it was taking place.
Oh, yes, yeah,
and
yeah.
We would continue to
Yeah,
be informed.
yes, and what I'm happy to go in closed session and talk about the specifics,
Okay.
should council wish.
Okay. Counselor Kylie?
Yeah, I think, Peter, when we discussed this situation, that we were aware, council was aware it was going to be in the 100,000 range, and basically gave you permission to negotiate in that, within that frame, so I would support what you're requesting.
So a motion is moved by Counselor Kylie, seconded by Counselor Barker, that council directs the chief administrative officer to settle the 2016 litigation matter up to a maximum of $100,000.
All in favor? That's carried. Okay, item 6.2. Ashley, you gotta come up and speak to the issues.
Okay, so I have 4 items to discuss. The first one is the sale of land behind 485 Archer Drive to Miller Paving Limited. They have offered $15,000 for land identified in Schedule A in your package. It's located directly to the rear of the property, so the south of the property, and the purpose is to safeguard that for future expansion purposes for their aggregate storage. I should mention that if they decide to go ahead with the aggregate storage on that property, they will need to go through a site plan control agreement amendment with us in order to recognize that area for that purpose. We did notify the adjacent landowner, and we gave them a time frame to respond back to us, and we have not received it as of a couple weeks ago. So that's where it sits at this point. So at this point, I'm asking whether or not council is okay with me proceeding with the bylaw, and that will be coming back later.
Any questions of Ashley? No. Okay, thank you, Ashley, for that.
Okay, my second report is about the airport. So as part of our internal review of the operations of the town, staff have identified the airport as an area that needs to be reviewed, mostly just the operations of it and whether or not we would like to continue the certified full-time staff hours, open 5 days a week in the summer, or 5 days a week in the summer, 7 days in the winter. So although all of the residents benefit from the airport from a medical and health perspective, there's very few direct users. So it was one of those ones that was flagged when we were doing a little bit of an analysis on what we should be looking at going into next year. So the airport is a certified airport. Like I mentioned, it does have hours of operation from Monday to Friday in the summer, and full-time even on weekends over the winter to allow for plowing and friction testing to take place. If we keep that certification over I'm assuming in the next 5 to 6 years, we're looking at about $7 million in investments that'll likely need to be done in order to bring it up to speed. We've already allocated $60,000 this past year in crack filling for the airport, and I think the intent, based on the meetings that we've had previous to this, was another 60 to be allocated next year to finalize the crack filling of the airport. That should last for a good 4 to 5 years. So at this point, what we're looking to do is conduct a review of this in a little bit more detail, and provide maybe 5 options. So there's 5 that we want to consider, which is keep it status quo and certified, and start including some of these assets in a capital funding plan, to decertify the airport and include assets in the capital funding program or plan. So decertifying, I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with what would be involved from the certification to decertification process. You can still fly in, you can still operate the airport, you're just not you're not regulated through Transport Canada, so there's a little less administrative work that needs to happen. And there's also some savings in terms of audits that need to take place throughout the year. So option 3 was to decertify the airport and operate seasonally, so we can remove that airport maintenance, or the winter maintenance. Number 4 would be to get out of the airport business altogether and decommission the site. That would be extremely expensive, but one we still want to consider in this review. And then the other one was potentially to sell to another operator. So as part of this process, our plan is to contact key stakeholders and discuss this with the public to see if there's any concerns that they'd like to bring to the table. We are going to be doing it in-house based on the information I have in files and with the airport's or manager at this point. Is there any questions?
Councillor Barker.
Just a quick comment. Tonight, Councillor Kiley and I were approached by an individual with potential economic development opportunities with the airport, and I'd like to sit down and talk with you, possibly
Perfect. Yeah.
looking into the potential there.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, Ashley, roughly, based on what we've been spending annually on the airport, we're talking in the $150,000 range. I think it's a little premature to be, for the recommendation to be shutting it down. I do think we do need to do a full review. We certainly don't have $7 million laying around or that's gonna pop out of the, in our bank account. So I'd recommend we just carry on for this year. Well, we can discuss it in the budget process for 2018, but not to make any major capital
No.
improvements at this point, till we know where we're going.
So the $250,000 is to operate. We generate approximately $125,000 of that in user fees. That doesn't include any of the capital costs. So our $60,000 is above and beyond that, right? So anything we allocate in capital is not included in that operating.
I guess the other thing I was curious about, because we use it for, is it Orange that?
Yep.
uh,
Yep, medevacs.
The ambulatory service. How would that affect that service to our area? Has that been checked out?
It's things that we will definitely include in the study. So right now, we're
Okay.
very much at the preliminary stage. We don't want to do too much work if it's not council's direction to not want to look at the airport and what the potential operating shifts that could happen. So with Orange, I believe that conversation happened previously when we looked at decertifying. If we decertify, Orange will not have an issue. They'll still be able to land. It's just a matter of the onus being on the pilot to make sure that the friction ratings are good and landing conditions are okay versus us having to provide them.
Further to Councillor Barker's comments, I'll be in Earlton on Thursday for TMA executive meeting, and we don't want to go into detail at this point what the information was given to us tonight, but I will check that out and report back to you and
Perfect.
council next meeting.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you.
Councillor Chamillard.
Yeah, the airport. So, if I remember right, you guys might remember, certification of this certification was about $70,000 difference at the time, because we still have to pay the rest anyway. When we voted on that, Tony, is that 4 years ago? Is that before Pat was there, I think, and Jim?
I think it was around 20,000. I think it cost us.
No, I think it was 70,000.
So the audit itself is $20,000 a year. It's a 3-phase audit, so
Yeah.
60 grand to do, but if you factor it over 3 years, you can get away with 20 every year.
Okay.
The only thing that you can consider once you decertify is the staffing. You can now play around a little bit more
Bit
with that
more,
staffing.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to operate seasonally, yes, you'll see a benefit, but you also see a difference in your user fees.
Yeah,
So
but
those are
if
all
you go,
things that-
I mean, that would, then you don't have Orange in the winter, which you needed.
No, yeah, those are things we
I
have
mean,
to
you need it,
consider in
yeah.
those studies.
Another thing, we have a new company coming in town. They might need the airport. Like,
Yeah, we've seen, so there's Artisan who
yeah,
said that it
no,
was.
not those guys, the other group.
Oh, the warehousing, yes, they said that there was a potential need there, but they discussed that further when we review this, and we'll include them in those
Okay.
conversations and bring all that back to
Like,
council.
I know, like, I think Red Lake and Thunder Bay went with operating authority. I don't know why would they do this. Well, it's out of town at that point, but they get maybe more funding, Peter? Would that be an idea?
Yeah, there's, I guess tonight we're just looking for direction
Yeah.
if we want to review this or not bother with it. And we can explore all the options. I think that it'd be, again, I'm going to put my old treasurer hat on, even though I lost it about a half an hour ago. That the town, again, this is the whole part of the portfolio. The town is facing financial pressures, and we need to look at all our
Yeah,
assets
yeah,
and all our
yeah.
services. So this is simply asking to look at it and report back, right? So, and that could be operating model. There's could be probably a dozen other things. Could we join the other group that's at Earlton, right? I don't know, right? Like that could be part of the.
Yeah, I think they have more problem than us, so that's,
Yeah, I don't know, yeah. So,
and we could talk about this.
Yeah,
Like, most of them run at nonprofit, so I guess they must charge more. Like you said at one point, there's 600 flight a year, which is quite a bit more than I thought, actually. Like, maybe we have to charge more,
Yeah, so our
Ashley?
landings, when that's something that we'll consider with user fees, but right now, when, let's say, Kirkland Lake Gold flies in, because I'll use them as an example, they've been charging flights twice a week, it's $40 a landing. So they'll land once, it's $40. So whether we up that later, that's something we could discuss.
what's the price of the ambulance?
300.
yeah, I know, there's a big, yeah, you're right,
Yeah.
Peter, that's exactly what I was thinking.
But that was to motivate people to,
But, yeah, exactly, and that's what you
Landing.
want them to use it, but at some point you have to say, ooh, that we have, and maybe we could, there's room there to move up, and they might be happy, hey, you guys take care of it, and we'll use it more, and make sure you break even.
yeah.
Um,
And those are hopefully discussions we'll be able to have with them, and maybe
Yeah.
that's where we'll go.
And also, one thing I don't like, you said most of the local that use it are not even Kirkland Lake people. Well, those should be charged more. Like, really,
Yeah.
that's one place. I mean, Kirkland Lake people should have a rate, and those guys should have a different rate.
And I think that is established for, I'm not sure if it's the airport or if it's, yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Because people at Kirkland Lake also paid it to their tax, so.
Yeah.
They pay, plus they pay to their tax. So it should be at least the same or more, like, with tax included.
I think as part of this, we're looking at what's the public policy the town is trying to achieve with owning and or operating an airport. Not only how we do it, but what is it we're trying to achieve? Is it economic development? Is it healthcare related? Is it something else, right? So, and I think that's probably a little bit of the confusion. And that's one of the things that we want to actually go out and ask. Why do people use the airport? What would they do if they don't have an airport? Would they use it more if we did something, right? So I think that's part of all this, because I don't think there's any metrics. There's no outcomes we're trying to achieve because we don't know what we're trying to achieve, and there's no metrics behind to see if we are achieving it. So part of this whole review is to come back with those as well.
Well, I think there was one. One was health. Orange is important to most people in town. And then economic development came in about 15 years ago, Tone, when the mine started. I know health, people would say, oh, the helicopter will come in, but the helicopter, from what the doctors told me, it might be 5 to 10% of the patient. Because it's not available regularly, because they have other things to do. They do highway, for example, they land on the highway, get people. That's what they do first.
Yeah, and
Transporting people
And
is
I think
not.
it'd be fair to have the Ministry of Health, the Orange people, come to speak either part of this or speak council to let them know of how they do schedule helicopters and airplanes, because that's obviously not a municipal service.
No.
It's Ministry of Health. But again, if that's written somewhere that the airport's there for health reasons, I'd like to find it, the metrics, because I'm just looking at the user fees, and if it's there for health reasons, we charge the health people $300 to land, but we charge the non-health, whether they're economic development or private recreation planes, $40. So again, the public policy, if it's council's public policy for health, you'd think that the fees for health would go down and the landing fees for non-health would go up, but
That's politics.
Right.
Councillor Kylie.
Just to clarify, Ashley, the review is an internal review. We're not spending money on a consultant report.
Oh, another point. And I know, Peter, that's a new thing for you, because you don't have that in Guelph, worrying about the air ambulance. Here, it's a major thing, and they get bumped regularly. And you might be at the I'm sure people here have been there at the hospital waiting for the air ambulance, and somebody from town comes in, more important. Sorry, you're bumped. You have to wait more. This guy has to go first, and that's what's happening pretty much regularly. The helicopter doesn't come that much because they will go, for example, to Sioux if there's an accident on the road, or they'll go to Sudbury and they'll land on the road. So even if they're coming here halfway, they might turn around, oh, sorry, we have something on the road, or in the bush to go to. The plane is more stable. When they say they come here, usually they'll come. Unless on the way here, something might happen somewhere else, and that's more important, and they go. So it's, I mean, there's always waiting and all this, but a lot of people in town has been saved by the air ambulance, and it's an important thing.
I don't think we've had any charters here since probably 30 years, when North Ontario used to come in, maybe longer than that. But, you know, the councils of the past always took the approach that we'll consider and continue our airport, mainly because of the air ambulance. Council looked in the past of the regional aspect, hooking up with Earlton. The cost, I think, was a little bit greater to hook up with Earlton than what it cost us here. It was always felt that why should our citizens, why should our people in Kirkland Lake have to travel 60 kilometers to get an airplane when we have our own airport here? We've often looked at the pros and cons of certification. Certainly the pro is, without being certified, you have no charter service.
No, charter's fine.
Without certification?
Yep.
You can still, not a charter, but a
Scheduled flight
a
service.
scheduled flight,
Yeah.
sorry.
So Porter would, or
Yeah.
Air Canada.
And I think we realized a long time ago that Kirkland Lake's not getting a charter flight. I think other communities are realizing to the south of us that they're not going to get a charter flight either. So I think one of the questions that I would hope that we'd look at is the certification. You know, by not certification, we're probably looking at 105, 110,000 a year to run our airport. No doubt it'll be cheaper probably than what it would cost us to go regionally. You know, people that come from our hospital shouldn't have to go 60 kilometers, especially during the winter, to catch a plane when we have our own airport here. So certification is something I think that we should look at. But I hope that we channel our energies, especially in the light of new happenings here in Kirkland Lake. As you mentioned, our latest, the Artisan, certainly supportive of our airport. Kirkland Gold, certainly supportive of our airport. The new packaging company showing some interest and the importance of our airport. So I hope our energy is going to be channeled on ways that we can keep our airport, not looking for someone to come in and buy it. So decertification, I think, is one way that we could certainly bring us down to operate our airport cheaper than what the bill would be from Earlton. Maintenance is certainly an issue. It's up to the politicians to continue to lobby the feds for airport resurfacing. We've done that in the past. I know Charlie Angus at one point was looking at presenting to the feds, and we participated in that survey. But we have to continue to solicit the feds for resurfacing. We're not the only airport having difficulty. So going forward, I think the airport is becoming much, much more important than it was in the past. But certainly air ambulance is my number one. You know, I wouldn't want a family member, and I don't think anybody here would want a family member, you know, having to go the other 60 kilometers. You know, that was the main reason, and really the only reason that we surfaced Airport Road, because of the ambulance. And we continue to look after the health and well-being of our residents. But going forward, yeah, I would certainly hope that we channel our energy again on keeping it going, how we can reduce costs, decertifying, and looking at certainly user fees is landing fees. That'll be presented when we get our user fees in December, I guess. Councillor Shammy, I mentioned about non-residents out there. You know, we've always had a user fee extra for non-residents. I don't know if it applies at the airport, but I think it should going forward. But that's all I have to say on the matter. Councillor Shammy.
So I kind of know, Peter, how we do this, but like when we don't ask passports or driver's license, somebody coming at the air ambulance. Okay, we put it on, we ship them. But lots of them come from King Kirkland or B-Town, Larder, and we tried at TMA a few times, we mentioned that, but they don't want to hear anything, they don't care. They use it for free. Engelhard Hospital could come here and use it, because at one point the Earlton Airport was closed. Madison Hospital might use it, I don't know how far, what's going on that side, but, I mean, the possibility is there a lot, but the problem is that Kirkland Lake is paying for it, and all of us is paying for it. Doesn't matter where you live, you pay for the airport and it costs. Last year, well, 120 plus 60, probably about 200,000 we paid, Ashley, at the end, yeah?
That's 250 is typically what I've seen over the
Is
last.
that what we finally paid at the end, after
Oh.
revenue?
No, 125.
Yeah, plus 60,000 for the repair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so close to 200,000.
Yeah.
So, that's quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I think that, obviously, the issue of do local property taxpayers, should they be burdened with this, with a health service? And I think that's the public policy question, right? They are burdened with public health costs, they are burdened with, land ambulance. Kirkland Lake, it's a public, they can choose to be burdened with the health costs of having availability for their citizens, as the mayor had eloquently spoken about, to have this air ambulance. As Doug, so that's I guess the part of the review, right? And it's just going forward, because there is, whether we certify, the buildings it's a 40-year-old structure, and it's gonna need attention at some point, right? So, and what we're trying to ask for here is put all our rationale of why we offer this service, like package that up and let's make a decision. And then we could start putting the plan together as part of a capital plan, multi-year capital plan of when we do the renovations or whatever is needed up there. So I think that's what it is. I think going without having outcomes and metrics kind of is gonna hit, like it's gonna be one of those things that, come a couple months, we're gonna present a capital plan and we're gonna put this building up because it does need attention, or it's gas stuff, it does need attention, and again, you need something to base it on versus another capital project, right? So, and that's, I guess, what we're trying to see. And we don't know what we'll hit with theirs, because maybe there's other partners that might come to the table with us, right? Maybe we talk to the hospitals and the Ministry of Health, right? Like, I don't know what would happen if we all of a sudden close the airport. Like, they have obviously their mandate to serve the population as well. So I don't know, right? So, would they come with the table with money? So, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a resolution that's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council directs staff to bring forward recommendations regarding the future of the airport, including identifying the public policy outcomes council wishes to achieve with the airport and costing for various service levels.
All in favor? Carried?
But, Tony, I just had a question. We didn't really say what we wanted to achieve there. No.
That's, the recommendation is that staff will bring back something for it. That's what you're,
What they want to achieve, what we want to achieve.
all different options, those 5 options that
Yeah.
Ashley had listed out.
Okay. We're good? Okay, so my third report is about applying to the Ontario Seniors Grant Program. As you all are aware, we're working on the age-friendly community improvement plan at this point. We're in month 5, so we've had 5 meetings so far. 6th one's going to be November 20th. We're talking about one of the 8 dimensions at each point. We're getting lots of great turnout. The surveys are out right now, so if you have a chance, try and grab one and fill it in. We'll be using that information in the plan to help us get a good understanding of where we want to go with it. So the grant streams, there's 3 grant streams available. There's one between $1,000 and $3,000, and they'll actually cover 100% of the total eligible project costs. Stream 2, which is what I'm recommending we apply for, is between $3,000 and $12,000, and that would be 80% of the eligible costs, so we would be responsible for the other 20. The third is between $1,200 and $100, and there's a 20% contribution required. So, what we're trying to do is by the time we get into, I'm hoping March, April, we're going to start having a plan established to bring to council for consideration. We're going to need money to reproduce that plan, to, make sure everyone sees it and it gets out to everybody. The other part that has come up as a recommendation at pretty much every single one of our meetings is the need for a community guide for seniors. So I'm trying to use the money that we'd get from here towards developing a community guide, which is basically an information booklet for the senior population, so you'd know where to look if you're looking for different services, health-wise, transportation-wise, everything would be in one guide. Timiskaming Shores has done this, and we're going to try and use that as the example of how we do ours. But we've been hearing over and over again that would be a great initiative to take on, especially as a first project. The other thing was promotional material to bring awareness to the committee and the plan. So those are the three things that I was hoping we'd be able to accomplish with the funding. I'm assuming that we probably won't need more than, what did I say here?
2 to 3.
Yeah, so I was saying that next year we'd likely have to allocate between $2,000 to $3,000 if we were successful in achieving the funding.
Actually, I think Victim Services has a plan or a guide that I've seen at different times that may be a real good start for you, identifying all the contacts.
Perfect, thank you.
I have a motion that's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that council directs the manager of planning and land development to apply for the Ontario Seniors Grant Program 2017 to 2019 for the purpose of 1, producing and distributing the age-friendly community improvement plan. 2, developing, producing, and distributing a community guide for seniors. And 3, promotional material to bring awareness to the committee and the plan. And if successful, the council dedicates $3,000 towards the project as our contributing portion.
All in favor?
Sorry, should it say up to 3,000 or?
If you'd like me to, up
Yeah,
to,
I think it's what she
Yeah,
had
that's
asked.
fine, yeah.
okay,
You
up
may
to
be asked.
$3,000.
All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you.
So my last report tonight is a site plan control agreement amendment for the old DVA, which is 145 Government Road West. So we saw this previously with the zoning bylaw amendment to allow the residential to take place on the top floors and to reduce the parking. So at this point now, they have submitted their building permits. The plans look fantastic. I'm not sure if anybody's been able to get a peek with James on what those look like, but they're good and they're selling very well, or not selling, but being rented. I'm pretty sure the top 2 floors are already rented. So at this point, they're just looking to amend the existing site plan control agreement. The site plan control agreement that was there previously was for the DVA and also accommodated the parking lot that was across the street. That parking lot's been sold to Independent and is no longer part of the legal fabric of the DVA, so we need to amend the site plan control agreement to get rid of that and also create some green space area for the residents that are going to be living on the top 2 floors. So that's what is within that site plan control agreement.
I just have a question for the more curiosity and people that could listen. So there's 4 floors there.
Yes,
So they're using the top 2 floors only for apartment?
so it might be the top 3.
Okay, I thought
I
that
know
was
the
top
top 2
3. Okay.
are, yeah, the top 2 I know for sure are residential.
And is there an idea when people will start moving in there?
Well, the building permits the building permits can't be issued until this is done and they all meet all
Okay.
the applicable law that Vic needs to worry about.
Okay.
But yeah, once he's, the building permits itself and the work that's gonna get done there will probably start happening within the next couple weeks.
Oh, good.
And then we should start to see things.
I'm exciting. Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause,
it's very
they
exciting.
had some really nice plan and if people want to see it. It was
Yep.
not cheap, but it was something that we need in town, I think. It
Yep.
was actually really, really nice.
Yeah, they're very nice.
Councillor Kiley?
Yes, Ashley, can you just refresh my memory on this DVA purchase? Did that include beyond the parking lot, the old Joe Ross property? No way.
No,
So that's just left as it is?
yeah,
Has there been any,
no, they said that they would, that they're, I'm sure, once they figure out, at this point, the parking that's there is permitted. They're allowed to use it, but they may end up recognizing a need for further parking. And if that's the case, then they would probably come see us regarding that property, or, yeah, we'd have to look at it then.
That'll come back in a bylaw.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Ashley. And item 7 is the introduction and reading and consideration of bylaws.
Okay, the first bylaw that I'm going to bring up is to Caldwell Construction Incorporated. Council has already passed a bylaw on this, but they have changed the name, so we're just redoing the bylaw for the name change. So it's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 17-105, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute documents related to the sale of HR 776 and L16653, parcel 5800 CSD, to Caldwell Construction Incorporated, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried.
No.
Oh.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that bylaw 17-112, being a bylaw to ratify union negotiations with QP 1074, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried.
It's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 17-113, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute all documents related to the sale of land behind 485 Archer Drive to Miller Paving Limited, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried.
This next bylaw is also one, it had to do with 115 Archer Drive. We knew that originally you had passed a bylaw to 42 real estate development, and they've changed the name of the company, or it's going to a different company. So it's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that bylaw 17-114, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute all documents related to the sale of 115 Archer Drive to Dancor Kirkland Lake, Inc., repealing bylaw 17-091, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? That's carried.
Moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 17-117, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement at 145 Government Road West, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Item 8, notices of motion. None. Confirmation bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that bylaw 17-118, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held November 7th, 2017, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Councillors' reports. Councillor Barker.
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everyone, all the constituents from Bernhardt Morissette, sending forth their concerns. They are being heard loud and clear by council. Every letter that's being written is being received and read by council. I can't speak for all council, I can speak for myself. It's being read, and careful consideration being put into that. As for my participation at the meeting, I will not be attending. Basic explanation is that if we do have quorum, it leads to a lot of, it can undo what the purpose of the meeting is to be, which is free dialogue with administration. It is an administratively led initiative, and Peter will be providing more information to the public, I believe, in the next few days with regards to why it is the way it is, and going from there. So, and if you need a further explanation, I am more than willing to sit down and chat with you about why. It may do more harm than good. Put it that way. So, thank you.
Certainly, I'd like to welcome our new employees. Certainly welcome Samir at the engineering department. Welcome to Kirkland Lake. Welcome to the town of, and welcome to the corporation of the town of Kirkland Lake. We look forward to working with you for many years. Also like to welcome Hosea Ampafu and Adam Slee in the accounting department, treasurer and deputy treasurer. Certainly like to welcome you to Kirkland Lake and also to the corporation of the town of Kirkland Lake. And I'd like to congratulate Vic on the appointment to the chief building official. I know Vic will do a great job in that. He's and we look forward to his continued service for the town. Councillor Kiley?
Yeah, since the last meeting, I attended the Salvation Army had an appreciation night for volunteers, and there was in excess of, there was about 110 people. The local Salvation Army managed to raise $35,000 last year from the Kettle campaign, which was a huge success. Matter of fact, it was as good or better than what Timmins did with 4 or 5 times the population that we have. So a big thank you to the Salvation Army for the work that they've done, and continue success in the future.
It's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that council adjourn its regular meeting of November 7th, 2017 to an in-camera meeting to discuss 2 labor relation issues, 1 issue concerning security of municipal property, and 1 issue concerning an ongoing investigation by the Ombudsman of Ontario.
All in favor? Thank you. Meeting adjourned.